All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Saturday, November 16th, and this is our immediate reaction following the Texas-Arkansas game as the Texas Longhorns win it 20-10. Wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always necessarily a feel-good, like, hey, we're dominating in full control of this game from beginning to end. I think the defense had a dominant performance. The offense, on the other hand, not so much. Definitely kind of reverted back to the Vanderbilt feel. I think actually they had a better performance in the Vanderbilt game, if I'm completely honest with you. But Jake, you're coming from Fayetteville. You are there live. You were at the game. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah. First off, a win's a win, especially in a game where, that place was sold out. I will say, first SEC road environment for me, it was loud. It wasn't that loud. I've been to Kansas State a couple of years ago in Sark's second year. It was louder there than it was here. The only thing that was loud was this lady next to me, and we'll get into that, who was just screaming the whole time and saying some unsavory things about Texas throughout the whole game and how much she hated them. And then resulted to saying "gig 'em" at the end once Texas had put the game away. And I was like, why are you now saying "gig 'em" when you can't beat A&M and they own you? Like, being owned by...
Jake, that's the SEC mentality, dude. That is when your team is out of the SEC, you then root for Georgia, Alabama, LSU. You then root for the teams that are still in it. That's just the SEC way. Not here in Austin, but that is the SEC way. So I'm not surprised at all that she started saying "gig 'em" and giving you the thumbs up.
Yeah, there's actually a video, and maybe we can put it in a short or something, where I was taking a video of all the Arkansas fans leaving the stadium, and she just puts a thumbs up in my camera view to block the view, and it's like, what are you doing, lady? Yeah. To be fair, her husband did stop and shook my hand as they were leaving. He's like, I'm sorry you had to sit by my wife, she's crazy. But there's a couple obnoxious fans, just like any fan base, but I will say most of the fans it wasn't as ominous as some of the stories that I'd heard from a few years ago. Maybe that's because Texas won the game. But my kind of I just want to get my initial take on the offense just out right away. That today's offense was a Quinn Ewers problem. You see it on TV, but for me, I just see things in person even clearer than when I'm watching TV, and we had good seats too, which helped. But when his first and second read aren't there, his feet are that's when his feet go sporadic. Almost every sack today was a Quinn Ewers self sack, in my opinion. I'll have to go back and watch the film. I was watching in person, but I just thought I thought it was a terrible game for Quinn, and he really slowed down the offense in a lot of drives. There was open guys in the middle of the field that he wasn't seeing. There were some drops, to be fair. Gunnar Helm probably had his worst game of the season by far. But Quinn's going to have to be better. They're not going to win out, especially against A&M on the road.
I thought the same thing. That was my same sentiment in terms of the offense. I was watching that entire game, especially in the first half, majority of the second half. That third quarter was abysmal. That may have been the worst quarter of play that I've seen, at least the Texas offense play. The defense wasn't that much better in the third quarter, but they were on the field the entire second half. So, they were getting tired legs. The offense wasn't helping them whatsoever. But my sentiment...
Arkansas is going to get a scoring drive sooner or later. That's a good offense.
Yeah. And they have a good power run game, and that's what is successful whenever your defense is exhausted and tired and continually on the field, and you can lean on those powerful running backs and the quarterback doing a little bit on the ground game as well. You tend to have a little bit more success that way. I thought the offense played a championship caliber game, in my opinion. I think the Texas Longhorn defense can win a national championship. They are good enough to win a national championship. They're the number one defense in the country, in my opinion, and statistics tend to back me up as well. If this Texas offense plays that way against A&M at A&M in a night game, it's over. Texas won't win that game. It won't matter how good the defense plays. Quinn cannot play that sporadic, that lax with his footwork, and essentially just no awareness in terms of pocket presence. He actually stepped up a little bit more in the pocket, but again, sometimes it was, dude, roll out. get out of the pocket. Like, you don't even need to step in that situation. It's determining when and where and how to move out of the pocket. It's not always stepping up. In the Georgia game, it was outside pressure. This game, it was like you could get out of the pocket and maybe extend your leg. I saw no athletic ability from Quinn today, aside from the 4th down conversion at the very end of the game to ice it on the QB keeper on the choice. But, man, like you said, I don't think I can credit the offensive line with a single sack today. I really can't. I think it all
I thought
goes
the
on number
offensive
3.
line played well today as a whole. There was holes in the run game. There's a couple times where the running backs didn't see a hole that looked like it was there. Again, I need to go back and watch the game from the broadcast view. But I thought the offensive line played fairly well today. They when they were running the ball, it felt like more often than not they were getting around 4 yards or more. And then there was the one drive where they were running it right down the throat, and then they do that screenplay, and Wisner should have just never caught the ball. He should have batted it down, and then it goes from 2nd and 2 to 3rd and 12. And so, there was some shooting in the foot this game, but there wasn't many penalties. The refs were not calling anything either way, in my opinion. And there was just too many mistakes from the quarterback, and this team is going to live and die with Quinn. You can't really, it's too late in the season to make a change, even if you wanted to. I'm not sitting here saying to put Arch in because, more mistakes can come from that. And the good thing was there were no turnovers today. Now, Jaden Blue did have that fumble that went out of bounds. And I saw that coming the entire way as he was running down the sideline. I was like, please, the ball, and then he fumbles and it goes out of bounds. But that the turnovers were the difference in this game ultimately. Especially with that second fumble from Arkansas. That was where I kind of calmed down. I was pretty calm even in the first half. I was like, offense looking bad, but there's not. I predicted Arkansas's offense to have success against this defense. First time all season where I've been the one to have any doubt in this defense, and they made me look stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for that. This to me was the best defensive performance of the season when you consider the quality of the offense that they were going against. I thought, and I'll be curious to get your thought from the TV view. I thought the edges played incredible. They not only contained, but they pressured. They got sacks. They were all over the place the whole game.
The front 7 dominated the entire front 7. I thought LaFau on a couple of angles in the run game missed, also missed on Taylon Green. Taylon Green's an athletic quarterback. That's easier said than done. But I thought LaFau played maybe one of his, like a B game. But other than that, in terms of the front 7, and I'm talking across the defensive line, and I'm talking secondary guys, role players, kind of rotation guys, all played their A game. I thought the front 7 looked the best that we'd seen from them all season long. And they showed why they're the number 1 defense. I thought the secondary played fantastic. Aside from that
Incredible.
third quarter, aside from that third quarter, go ahead.
Even in that third quarter, that deep ball, that was just a hell of a throw and catch.
Yeah.
I mean, the coverage wasn't even bad there. I was looking, when Arkansas would drop back, I'd be trying to look with is there an open guy, and QBs just aren't seeing it. There's just nothing. It is a no-fly zone back there. There was the one missed deep ball from Green late, but even that was a tight window throw with a safety coming over. Really good QB could hit that, but there's not many college QBs who are hitting that type of throw. I thought the secondary really blew me away. Finally getting to see him in person and not be constricted by the broadcast view, where you get to see more of the wider view of the secondary playing.
Yeah, and I thought, Jake, speaking on the defense, whenever you have to target Kobe Black as the kind of the if you had to pick on somebody, that's who you're going for, and you're going to your number 1 wide receiver when it comes to aiming for or targeting Kobe Black. He held his own, I thought, decently well. Again, some of them were just great catches. Some of it was just good route running and good offensive scheme to get the guy open. You're not going to hold a team like Arkansas to under 100 yards passing. Like, it just,
they had
the fact,
230 total yards.
Yeah. Taylon Green had he had 149 passing yards total in the game today. He had 0 passing touchdowns with the interception, and then forcing the fumble at the end of the game by Alfred Collins. That was just icing on a cake for what was a just shutdown performance from the defense.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, Arkansas was like, we talked about Green having a lot of fumbles. There was a couple plays where he got lit up on the blind side where I couldn't believe he didn't fumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the defense to me is just this might be the best defense I've ever seen at Texas. Actually, this is the best defense I've ever seen at Texas. They've played some weaker competition at times, but this Arkansas offense is a top 20 type offense. They're balanced too. This is the most balanced offense they've gone against. Arkansas had success here and there running the ball, but it's just like the rest of the season. We're spoiled from last year where teams just never got a 4-yard run ever. I mean, they got a 2-yard run max against that defense last year with Sweat and Murphy. This year, they're just a top 20 run defense, and top 20 run defense will give up a 4 or 5-yard run here or there. But the defense really, really impressed me. And like you said, this is a national championship winning defense. It's going to be up to, I really think a lot on Quinn's shoulders. He's got to play with confidence. And when his first and second read aren't there and the offensive line is giving him time, he can't get happy feet. He can't start. It almost looked like his head just starts going left to right, where he just doesn't know where to look. And he's just panics. And it's been an issue for most of his career. It's been better at times this year, but this is another game where he kind of reverted back to it.
He also has a tendency, for whatever reason, whenever he feels like there should be pressure, he starts rushing his progressions when they don't need to be rushed. They showed on the broadcast, Jake, and if you go back and watch it, which I know you will, there was a time, maybe 3 or 4 different times, where he decided to go throw it to the flats or dump it off to a tight end or to a running back, where you've got Golden. If you wait just a half a second longer, which your offensive line is providing you, or if you extend the play with your legs, you've got a Matthew Golden just getting open right there at the last second, and he's getting past the defense. And it's like, dude, if you just let the play develop a little bit longer instead of feeling rushed when you don't need to be rushed to get rid of the ball, that's a touchdown, or should be. And gosh, talk about some deep balls that he just seemed like he just launched out there for no particular reason. I mean, he wasn't even close to hitting any of those. And giving a wide receiver a chance on a deep ball, you could do one of two things. You're either going to get incredible play out of it from your wide receiver, especially with the talent that you've got at wide receiver, or you're going to cause a pass interference. If you're throwing it 10 yards ahead of the guy, 15 yards away from the guy, you're not going to get either one of those options.
No, I mean, we never even see receivers for Texas catch jump balls because there's never a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, his deep balls today there wasn't one that was remotely close.
No.
It was terrible. And there were several of them. It was the right throw. You're throwing one-on-one. You got a guy with a slight step. You make that throw. The problem
I thought that, Jake,
terrible.
I thought that first quarter should have been 24-0.
Yeah, it was there for the taking. Quinn cost off. Here, I'll put it this way. What would you grade the offensive line's play? Just for instant reaction, regular grading scale.
B+, A-.
I would say is an A-. That no pressure pretty much the whole game. Sacks were self-sacks, and they ran the ball with pretty consistent success. What would you the receivers is a little tough because that's roped in with Quinn, but what would you grade the running backs?
Running back group, I thought that they played pretty well for the most part. I thought Trey Wisner struggled a little bit more. I thought Jaden Blue played well. He fumbled as well, but I'd give them a B+.
Yeah, I'd probably go B with the fumble because that could have cost them the game if that happens in the middle of the field. But I think, B, anywhere in the B range is fair.
Yeah.
And then what would you grade Quinn?
Oh, I'd give him a D- close to an F.
Yeah, I'll give him a D because he didn't throw a pick.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And there were a couple drops, but the deep balls weren't there. He wasn't seeing the field. The self sacks were a killer. Also, I said Wisner should have tried to drop that screen pass. Quinn should have just threw it over his head. You see, there's a defender right there. You're going to have 3rd down and 2, and then you're in 3rd down and 12 after a really successful first down run. That's where the offense really can frustrate me, is when you have a really good first down play and then you just lose yardage because of something stupid on 2nd down. The screen wasn't there. That's okay. Throw it over his head. Don't rely on him to know where he's at, know a defender's right by him and drop it. Quinn's a 3rd-year guy. He has the experience. That's a play that he can make. And then the deep ball, it's just always been an issue. It's clearly never going to be consistent. He'll hit one here and there in a game, but when it's off, it is off. And it was terrible today.
Yeah. I think I texted you this, sometime in the first half, I believe. If I'm an NFL scout, I'm probably not going to touch him until at least the 5th round. I mean, I think his draft stock has plummeted. The deep ball, anytime he gets pressure, if he feels pressure, the way he responds to being pressured, sometimes he puts pressure upon himself whenever there is none to be had, because there was pressure maybe on a previous drive or something that the defense disguised, and now he's a little rattled even while the play is going on, and he's more reactive than he is responsive. And I just think that the way he has played mentally has not been what you would expect out of a 3-year starter in Sark's system. And with the same offensive line, essentially, you would think that trust would be there a little bit more.
Yeah, and part of it is, and I had texted you about this during the game. Arkansas ran the 3-3 flyover the entire game. They do not run that defense. They did run it against Tennessee, which was ironically probably their best game defensively. But this is a defense that has given Quinn Ewers issues. And the problem is you have to find the holes in the zone. If you noticed, a lot of the completed passes that were around that 7 to 12-yard range were all in the middle of the field or to the sideline. And Quinn just is not seeing those parts of the field well enough.
Yeah.
There was guys open in the middle. You have to beat those because they were just dropping back in zone the entire game. The 3 linebackers, and then all the secondary guy, it was just dropping back and giving up kind of a little bit more space in the middle of the field and some of those intermediate passes to the sidelines. And he just wasn't seeing it. Like you said, sometimes he rushed his progressions. Other time he went to his first progression, went to his second progression, wasn't there. Then he freaks out and panics.
Yeah.
And he's already going through him faster. And so then, like you said, his internal clock is telling him, I should be having pressure, but it's not there.
No.
I mean, one of the sacks, he quite literally caused Cam Williams to sack him by running into his legs.
Right. Yeah. And here's what I think this offense needs Quinn Ewers to be successful. Stetson Bennett, JJ McCarthy. And I'm not talking like I just think that he needs to be kind of a game manager, just doesn't need to rely on the big play, but he does need to make reads. He needs to make them correctly. And on big time downs and big time plays, his best play tonight or today was the 3rd down drop by Silas Bolden over the middle of the field where he broke the sack, and it was an incomplete pass. His best play today, Jake, was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. A lot of his passing yards came off swing passes where when you run that 3-3 flyover, you typically try to defend wide receiver screens, but I thought they were having a lot of success hitting the running backs on the flats. And that's not the quarterback making some great play. And sometimes it took them too long to get to the flat. When the whole defense is dropping back, you should probably go to the flat a little bit quicker because it's going to be there, and there's just no one there.
And one thing about Quinn's performance today, and it's been a tendency all season long, when to bullet it, when to force it in, and when to lollipop it, put some touch over it. Sometimes it's just like there was a swing route, and I believe it was very early in the game. 2nd, 3rd drive of the game, possibly. I'm not entirely sure. But you got Matthew Golden on a wheel route, and he kind of just lobs it, and it slowly gets there, and the defender has enough time for the safety to come across and knock it out of bounds. And I can't remember what drive it was, but it was early in the game. And I think if he puts a little bit of mustard on that and he puts a little bit more zip, that's a touchdown for Matthew Golden. It should have been. And he also stared him down the entire way from the snap all the way to the throw, stared it down. That obviously allowed the safety to read the play and know where he was going with it. So he telegraphed it. And then not only that, he had the receiver open, but he didn't make the correct throw in terms of whether he needs to bullet it in there and put a little bit more on it or to lob it and put some more touch.
Yeah, and it's just another part of the deep ball issues. They're either 6 yards just nowhere. I mean, just 6 yards away from the receiver, or there's times where he needs to put zip on it and he just lofts it up. I mean, he throws the ball higher than the punters for Texas kick it sometimes, which, by the way, watching the punters live was worse than on television somehow.
Arkansas was bad today, punters,
too. I actually thought special teams were really good today. Arkansas tried some stuff on the returns. It didn't work. They nearly blocked like 3 or 4 punts. After the first punt, I turned to my uncle and I was like, they're going to block a punt in this game if Arkansas continues to try to block them like that. because they almost got to the first one, and then they almost got to several, and obviously caused the punter to shank one of the punts at one point. But yeah, I mean, I just felt, and I'll go back and watch it, is an offense that's hampered by Quinn. The biggest missed throw, where if he hits it, I might have been a little bit more generous with some of my thoughts, was when they were driving down. I think it was 10 zip. They're driving down the field. It's 3rd and 5, and they're in the red zone. And Gunnar Helm, if he throws it accurately, it's probably a touchdown. And the throw was just low. A lot of his throws, short throws over the middle of the field, were really low in this game. And that's not something that's got to be a confidence issue or footwork. I'm not sure what was going on, but I thought a lot of the just missed throws were low as well. Because that one to Helm, they should have scored a touchdown on that drive, and that probably puts the game away. I thought them having to kick a field goal there gave Arkansas momentum, because then it was like, instead of 17 zip in a 3-possession game, you got a 13-0 game, and then Arkansas went down the field and that next drive, and that's when they scored a touchdown. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh crap! Then they have a 3-and-out where Quinn again, just happy feet, gets sacked, and then that was when defense held him to a field goal, and then obviously the rest is history. But this defense just proved why this team, it's just not like previous Longhorn teams where you would feel like the momentum shifting. The other teams, they're going to win. Like you even texted me, you're going to witness the storming of the field, and then the defense just shuts it down, like they have all season.
In-game text, in-game conversations are null and void. They do not count. But
they can still be brought up, though.
But they can still be brought up. And but yeah, I was worried. And I think if you go on Twitter, I don't know how long you've spent on X or Twitter.
It was not being on that app during this game.
There was it was pure chaos, and it was in full panic mode from the fan base, and I think rightfully so. I felt it. They felt it. I think we all kind of felt it. But here's the difference, like you said, within this team, is that this defense does not have those lapses where they become a liability in those moments. They become an asset. And I think that is the biggest turning point, the biggest difference of what we've seen in the past 10, 15 years with Texas compared to this year's team, even last year's team. But this year's team, this defense is an asset that we lean on. This is a defensive identified team, not an offensive team that Sark has put out on the field. And again, they can ride this defense to a championship, but it will take better quarterback than what we saw today from Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, this Arkansas, we mentioned it, success was going to need to come more through the passing game. A lot of the offensive success actually came through the ground, which was, I thought the running game is pretty good. Arkansas does have a decent running defense. I thought they ran the ball perfect. If you run like this the rest of the season, I think that's fine. But you got to have your quarterback hit throws. Deep balls can't be just completely nowhere close, not even giving your wide receiver a chance. I know the one deep ball at some point in the first half where there was kind of pass interference. I did get on X real quick, and I saw a lot of people complaining about that. The refs were letting the players play in this game. I didn't really have an issue with that. And also, that ball was so terribly thrown, it didn't deserve a penalty, quite frankly. But that last touchdown catch, it happened on the far side from the side we were on. Was that catch as good as it looked from my point of view for Matthew Golden?
Oh, dude, it was brilliant. It was, and so aside from the incomplete pass to Silas Bolden, that throw was placed perfectly. That throw
his red zone throws are typically probably his strengths this season.
Well, aside from the Gunnar Helm miss on the quick slant, but yes, that throw was brilliant, and then the catch was fantastic. I mean, it was just like the moment it hit his hands, the ball didn't move, and he kept his feet in bounds. He was getting hit by the defender. Matthew Golden, I thought, for having 2 catches, 2 catches and 2 touchdowns. Those 2 catches, I mean, obviously one was on the double move on the RPO, but he had a great game, and he has played really, really well. He's been vital, intricate part of this offense for them to have the success that they have. Jake, just real quickly, let's go. I just want to give a couple of stats. I don't know if you've got a chance to look at the box score. I know you're on your phone.
But I can't really have it open when I'm on my phone.
So Quinn Ewers, 20 of 32, 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's good for 5.5 yards completion. And then the running game, Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner, and including with Gibson, they combined for 139 yards. There was 5 sack yardage, 5 negative yards from Quinn sacks. But yeah, Jaden Blue had 14 carries, 83 yards. Trey Wisner had 17 carries for 59 yards. Jaden Blue had 6 yards a pop. And I thought he played really well, aside from the fumble, which he makes me nervous every time he touches the ball. And Jaden Blue also tacked on 3 receptions for 19 yards. Trey Wisner with 3 receptions, 23 yards. Leading receiver was Isaiah Bond with 4 catches, 48 yards. And then obviously Matthew Golden had two catches, 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Moore was completely absent in this game. I'm not sure if there was an injury or what happened. And
on that end around, on
the end around,
he hurt his ankle. I saw him trying to stretch it out, work it out on the sideline. He couldn't do a sprint without limping. I don't think it looked terrible, but it'll depend how it's looking come tomorrow and so on. But he did definitely have an ankle or foot injury in the game.
And Jake, the defense put the pressure on the offensive line, dominated. The defensive line dominated Arkansas's offensive line, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss.
Yeah, like I said, I thought this was the defense's best game of the season. When you consider the quality of the offense they were going against. If you would have told me Texas's offense was only going to score 20 points, I would have obviously probably picked them to lose based off my final score prediction. But that was, you can't ask for anything more from the defense than you can with how they played in this game. They forced turnovers. Arkansas had 4 first downs at halftime. 4. They had around 77, 79 total yards at halftime. The defense carried this game. They are the reason Texas won this game. The biggest credit I can give to the offense is when push came to shove, they put together a touchdown drive.
I will,
And that drive,
and I'll say
that is a championship-winning drive, and so was the last drive. They get the ball after the turnover with 6.5 minutes left, and the offensive line just shoves it down their throat every single play and runs out the time. I thought the fourth quarter from the offense was actually very, very good.
It actually was some of the best play that we saw from them all game long, if not the best play that we saw from them all game long. Jake, before we end this show, just real quickly, busy weekend for the Texas Longhorns athletic department. Last night, we saw the Texas women's soccer. They won the first round game of the tournament, 4-1 over Boston. Texas volleyball beat Auburn 3-0 last night. Today, we've seen the Texas football beat the Razorbacks 20-10, and Texas basketball is going to be playing Mississippi Valley State at 4 o'clock. That's going to tip off in about 30 minutes compared to where we're recording right now. And then tomorrow, women's basketball takes on DePaul. So busy weekend. Right now, Texas is 3-0 with those slated games of 5 this weekend. So I would imagine both basketball teams take care of business and we get a clean sweep this weekend.
Yeah, if Texas basketball loses that game, when I get home from Fayetteville, we will record an emergency pod of
emergency press conference.
Lose to the 132nd out of 132 teams in Ken Palm ranking. We will record an emergency pod where we call for Rodney Terry's job.
Yeah, it would be warranted. So, should be safe. But yeah, it was a little bit of a nail biter, closer than I think we wanted it to be. And a win is a win. An SEC road win always counts. And Jake, it's not like, Ohio State was losing to Northwestern in the second quarter today. They were like 25-point favorites in that game. So
that was at home against.
It was at Northwestern,
which is at home for Ohio State. I guarantee that.
Correct.
More Ohio State fans
yeah.
Northwestern.
Well, it was technically, I think it was at Wrigley Field, to be completely honest with you.
Okay. Well, what we've said it over and over this year. This season has proved more than any other season in college football. Just win.
Just win the
Longhorns just won on the road. And believe me, I can't tell you how many times I heard Arkansas talking about what a rivalry it is. And, it's weird for me to hear that just because we've talked about it. There is history there, but all the highlights they were showing before the game were from, black and
Black
white.
and white. Yeah.
And, it's like, it's a mini rivalry at most.
Yeah.
It's not like I feel like Texas needs to play them every year, but for Arkansas, it feels like a rivalry game. I guarantee you Sam Pittman was keying this game. He said it in, he talked about in his SEC media days about he had fans coming up to him and say, just beat Texas. And
which is crazy.
yeah, which is crazy. And, they gave it everything they had, and Texas didn't play their best game. But at the end of the day, they got the W. The offense did what they needed to. When push came to shove, they put together a drive, and then the defense clamped them the whole game, really.
Yeah. Defense dominated. And Jake, that is going to do it for the show today. Again, if we see a performance like this from the defense for the remainder of the season, Texas could very well win out, but it is going to take some help from Quinn Ewers to get to the ultimate goal of winning a national championship this year. We've seen him play better football. We've seen him play better football this season. In fact, I think we come from a week removed from that almost the highest potential of what we can see Quinn on a football field. And if we get that version of Quinn come postseason play, this team is really, really going to be set up to make a deep run at a national title in the first year of a 12-team playoff. That is my sentiment on the game. It wasn't pretty, but a win is a win. It made me nervous. I didn't like it for about 85 to 90% of that game. I wasn't happy except for on the defense side of the ball. But that's just it. A win is a win, and you take them when you can get them.
Yeah, not going to apologize about wins, and also uncomfortable for you. Try being around 70 to 80,000 Arkansas Razorback fans.
I was on my couch surrounded by toddlers screaming at me the whole game. So, yeah, you were in a much more hectic
I had
situation.
a grown toddler screaming next to me the whole game. So
that's fantastic. All right, Jake. Well, that is going to do it for our immediate reaction. We appreciate everybody. Like, share, subscribe, interact with the show. How did you feel about the game? And did you say anything that you might regret? And say it in the comments, whether that be in a private chat or on X or whatever, or maybe you still feel that way. And there are some growing concerns within the fan base of this team legitimately making a run. I don't know if I feel like I'm persuaded one way or the other. I think I came into this game the same way I'm feeling about this team leaving this game. It will solely depend on how Quinn Ewers plays the rest of the way. Well, for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. We thank you. Welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.